Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to A Tall Girls podcast, hosted by a tall girl named India. I hope everyone who is tuning in is doing super fantastic. Before I get into this episode, I do want to say, make sure you're following me on my socials at A Tall Girls podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest so that you can stay up to date on all of the latest podcast episodes and catch a glimpse of my everyday life. Also, feel free to leave me a review and let me know how tall you are. I'm genuinely curious. Everything is going to be linked in the description. As I've said before, I hope everyone who's tuning in is doing well. And if you live in the Northeast, as do I hope you are staying safe. If you didn't know, the Northeast is having some interesting weather conditions and weather patterns. I guess there was some type of storm. There was like a storm alert. There was a couple flood alerts, but I guess there was some type of storm that was headed this way because there was a lot of heavy rains. There's a lot of strong winds. And now there's below freezing temperatures and snow and still heavy winds. The Northeast has definitely been experiencing a lot of interesting weather, and I've actually seen a couple of you guys, a couple of the people that I follow, have posted about that and how even some people have lost power. They have experienced heavy flooding, so their cars got ruined. And I'm lucky enough that I didn't experience any of that. However, I did get caught in some of the bad weather, and it was definitely difficult just to walk in the streets. Like, what would be a 10-minute walk turned into a 45-minute walk because I would have to take breaks because it was freezing cold or the wind was just too strong that I needed to take a break. And it's just been wild these past few days. So if you live in the Northeast or are experiencing crazy weather, please stay safe and stay warm. Now today, as you could probably tell by the title, we are going to be talking about people's stares. One of the major things that tall women complain about is getting lots of stares. The stares and looks that people give them when they enter the room, whenever they're wearing heels, and this and that and the other. And today, I'm going to be giving tips on how to deal with that in confidence. But first, let's tackle why tall women get a lot of stares, because I'm pretty sure you are wondering. Now, I can sit here and say that people are staring in admiration and because they're beautiful or because they are jealous and they want your height. And listen, that can be the reason, but I also want to put out there that not all stares and looks that tall women get are good in a sense. Tall girls get uncomfortable when people stare for a reason. Not all stares and looks are in admiration or awe. Sometimes it's in disgust or in fear or people just being very creepy, and that leads us to become very insecure. Listen, we could be dressed up, dressed down, dressed sideways, and people will still stare. It doesn't matter for the most part. It doesn't matter for the most part what we're wearing. We'll get to the heels part later. But I think a more common reason that tall women get stares is because we stand out from the crowd. We could just be the first thing that people see, and their eyes are immediately and naturally just drawn towards us. And on top of that, people that are shorter than us tend to stare. And it makes sense because there is an obvious difference between you and that person. So naturally, they're just going to look. And because you have a different trait, people are going to stare, people are going to do double takes, people are going to look. It's similar to when people dress differently from others. They wear different clothing from the crowd or different clothing from other people. If you are even like in a different race in a different country, I can definitely attest to that as well. People have done that as well. People are going to stare. If there's any type of difference, if you look different than what they're used to, or if you look different than the people that you're surrounded by, you're going to get stares. And most of the time that's normal and natural. Oh my gosh, that actually reminds me. I remember one of the first times that I wore platform sandals. It was to a family party and it gave me like an extra 2 inches max. And obviously when I walked in, people were staring, people were looking, people were like, oh my gosh, you're so tall. But there was this one toddler in particular who kept staring at me. So I walked over to him and he started crying and hiding behind his mom. I felt so bad. I don't know, maybe my height scared him. Maybe he thought I was going to step on him. Who honestly knows what the reason is? It was a toddler and I'm not going to think too deeply about it. But I'm just trying to say that no matter the reason, that people stare, good, bad, creepy, it's important to not think too deeply into it, because that's when you're going to start driving yourself crazy and you're going to stress yourself out with that. The number one trick to dealing with people's stares is to not automatically think that they're making fun of you or they're thinking negatively about you. They may actually wish that they had your height. So stand tall with your back straight and head held high and keep on walking proudly. The thing here is you don't necessarily know what they're thinking. You cannot get into their brains, and 9 times out of 10, they're not always going to tell you what they're thinking. So because you're not in their heads, because you don't necessarily know what they're thinking, there's really no point in stressing over that, because you have no control over that, especially if they're a stranger. You have no control over what they can think about you, and you have no control over what they actually do end up thinking in the first place. And honestly, there's no point in stressing over about that, because if you think about it, again, as I said before, they probably wish they had your height. And how do I know? I've had my moments where people would stand on their tippy toes when they would talk to me or come into contact with me, like visibly stand on their toes. And I would ask them, why are you standing on your toes like that? And they didn't even realize that they were doing it. I'm still confused about it to this day. So even if people are staring at you for malicious reasons, just give them a smile and keep on walking. Like I said before, some of these people are honestly complete strangers, and they don't know you and you don't know them. It doesn't even matter. Just let them stare, and try not to confront them about that too, because that can cause a lot of problems, because some people have a lot more time on their hands than they actually need to, and they will start something, whether it's a fight, start trouble, just because they can. And honestly, it's not worth your time. Just as it's not worth your time to worry about other people's thoughts about you, it's also not worth your time to be starting chaos or getting into chaos with these people who have nothing else to do with their lives. And if you get stares when you're wearing heels, keep on wearing them. Don't modify what you're doing or what you're wearing simply because people stare. Let them stare. Wear the heels and walk confidently. You paid for them, so you might as well. And don't hide or become some type of hermit, okay? You were made to stick out. You were made to stand out for a reason, and it's time to bless the world with that gift. No, you are not freakishly tall. You are not huge. You are not ginormous. You are not scary. You are tall and beautiful. Tall and amazing, tall and intelligent. Let's start using tall in a more positive light. My number one thing here is people are going to stare regardless. So give them a good reason to stare. Be confident about it, be proud about it, and keep walking like you own the place, because you actually do. And over time, you're going to get used to it. We all get used to it at times, and it's really just best to ignore them. Whether or not they stare for good reasons, whether or not they stare for bad reasons or malicious reasons or creepy reasons, it doesn't matter. Just know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with your height. There's nothing wrong with what you're wearing. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Other people's opinions, as I've said several times in other episodes, other people's opinions of you don't matter, especially if they're strangers on the street who you will probably never ever see again. I'm the type of person that's like, YOLO, do it for the plot. If you want to wear them 7-inch heels in public, or 7-inch heels to that work party, or 7-inch heels to that holiday party, 7-inch heels on that date, go ahead and do it. And if they have a problem with it, that's their problem, not yours. You paid for them heels anyways. They didn't. So their opinion is already knocked down 2 notches simply because they didn't even pay for those heels. And even if they did pay for those heels, so what? They gave them to you for a reason, so that you can wear them. So if they have a problem with you wearing something that they gave you, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level. But I understand firsthand that these stares can make you uncomfortable and make you feel insecure. It feels like unwanted attention and all eyes are on you. I can understand. I've been through it. I've lived through it. I still live through it to this day. But you have the power to tell yourself that you're not doing anything wrong, because essentially you're not. you're just being who you are. You're being who you're meant to be. That positive self-talk is definitely going to help you in that situation. And I will be the first to help you with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. And if they want to stare, then let them stare. So I'm going to end this episode here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. As always, feel free to hit me up on my socials at A Tall Girls Podcast. All of my socials are going to be linked below, and you can let me know what you thought about this episode. You can let me know any story times of people staring at you and what you did. I'm down for a chit chat about life as well. Just hit me up and we can go from there. And also don't forget to leave me a review and let me know how tall you are. I'm still looking for my height twin, and I'll catch you in the next one. Good night and goodbye.